What intrigued you the most about this project, and what made you want to be a part of this film?
I really loved the simplicity of the story. I loved how complex it was, but it was really about a boy who just wants a bike. And he wants validation from his friends, he wants validation from the girl he likes, but most importantly, he wants validation from himself. He's on this coming of age journey to find out where he is and how he fits into the world. And that was really appealing to me for this story, for a story like that to be told from the eyes and from the perspective of a young Black kid.
Yeah. Were there any similarities and differences between you and Miles? Did you draw on any sort of real life experiences when you were channeling this character?
Well, I think anytime as an actor, whenever you have to bring about some sort of emotion, it's always great to use sense memory to bring about, to channel some real life experience. But I think, I mean, I've never been involved and had an obsession with dirt bike culture or whatever for the film, but I definitely, I can relate to his passion for the dirt bikes, and I can relate to how he wants validation from himself and how he's trying to prove something to himself, and all of those themes of toxic masculinity I've definitely had to deal with and battle in my own life. So I definitely find commonalities in who we are, and aside from our circumstances and the cards we were dealt, I think Miles is really all of us in a way. So he is symbolic for all of us. So I loved playing him, and I loved being able to bring his story to the forefront.
Did you do any work with the bikes, or was that like 100% stunts?
It was 100% stunts. Well, I mean, there was one scene where they would like hook me up to a rig and they would pull me out of frame. But other than that, it was all stunts. I did not know a child actors were armed in the process and the filming of the movie. But I had a lot of fun watching the actual dirt bike riders do their thing and seeing them do all of these crazy, I mean, just extraordinary things with their bodies on these bikes. Like, it's crazy what they're able to do. Yeah. They're like athletes in a way, and it's really fascinating to watch them work. So yeah, it was awesome.
What was it like working with Meek Mill? Was there anything that surprised you by working so closely with him?
He's kind of shy at first meeting. He's kind of coy and shy, sort of not soft-spoken, but very mild energy-wise. And I think getting to know him throughout the filming of the movie, it was great to see him sort of step out of that a little bit and just be in the moment. He really wanted to do a great job, and I think that comes through when you watch the film. But there was one moment where it was great to see him just not worry about if he was saying a line right, if he was delivering it in the right way, but him just being in the moment was really incredible. You know, I almost forgot my line. I was like, oh, wow, he's really good. So yeah, I think he's gonna impress a lot of people with this role.
What's the one major takeaway that you hope viewers will get from City Kings?
Whatever they bring to it, I think. I hope they understand that the core message of the film and the core theme is really how one decision can change your life forever, especially when you are young, and for anyone who's at an adolescent age, all the decisions that you make can really influence your life, but going forward, but particularly when you are in a disenfranchised community and when you are marginalized in a way, one bad decision can influence everything going forward. And so I hope for the younger people specifically who see it, I hope it inspires them to think carefully about every decision that they make and really understand their place in the world and how important they are to all of us. So yeah, hopefully they understand all of those things.
I know that we have 12 O'Clock Boys as the primary source material for the film, but as a filmmaker, what was the research process like for bringing this Baltimore community to life on screen?
I guess it could have been like maybe threefold. Yes, I went out of my way and did as much research as I could online, in order just to have an idea of the energy around it. But it's never enough. Like that doesn't do justice. And I could take examples of my upbringing as a child in Puerto Rico in the streets of Santurce and inform, you know, the how I saw life back then and how I can show this life now. But it wasn't until I went there and I embedded myself for about 7 weeks with the community, with the bike culture in Baltimore, you know, eating their food, talking their talk, and like really understanding the energy within the community and the characteristics of the people. And I just realized that that level of authenticity is really hard to imitate. It's one of the things that you really need to hone into them and make them be a part of the story you're telling in order for it to be as true as possible. And through that, it also allowed me to not only keep the community involved, but also give them encourage them to take part of the film so that they can make it theirs. I think that by doing that process, you're able not just to get the approval of the community, but also clean your palate from everything that you have kind of like digested up until then and really focus on them.
Yeah. And going off of that, how important was it for you to have real life figures like Chino and Willie Queen in the film to, I guess, add to its authenticity?
Well, I mean, we couldn't have done this film without them. I think the whole concept and everything just falls down if we wouldn't have what they bring to the table. And not only Chino and Queen are from Baltimore, we also had almost all the writers that you see in the movie are the 12 O'Clock Boys. Okay. Willie Wayne, who's like the godfather, he's the one that organized them all. He's the one that called them to come here and gather. And if it wasn't by their blessing, and if it wasn't through them, we wouldn't have got the movie made. So yes, my main goal was to like get as many Baltimore locals as possible. But in order also to balance the part of like, it's not a documentary, you know, it's also a narrative feature, having the talents of Jahi, of Didi, of Kasai, Tiana, Will Catlett, they were able to really gather, feed off of their authenticity, but also feed back the sense of that bounce between them really helped to keep the story anchored in the realism.
Yeah. And when I first saw the film at Sundance, I liked it so much because I thought we had a gritty coming of age story with young leads of color since I guess like the 90s, probably the early mid 90s. Were there any prior works or films, TV shows in particular that you looked at to as maybe sort of inspiration for how you approach this one?
Well, the references were there early on, and a lot of them, all of them are nods to the movies that we grew up with. So having those things already embedded in the story and in the journey of Mouse, what I really tried to do was I remember how I felt. Like I'm working out of my memory of how I felt with those stories. And that's exactly what I wanted to manifest visually. I didn't want to go there and see how they did things or make it look alike. I really wanted to show through our visual language my memory of how I felt when I saw those movies. And by doing so, be able to create our own voice.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I do think it's just so good to have this because we don't have that, especially like post 90s. Like we don't have like a Menace to Society, films like that. So when I saw this at Sundance, I was like, this is going to be it. This is something that we get, especially for this generation, can have and humanize these.
I agree. I agree. It's about time, and we think in other shapes and forms, man. Some of us wants to do other things, like be a vet. Why not?